Well, hi everybody, Pastor Jeff here. Greetings to our Timberline family, and it is 9 a.m. Colorado time, and here in the UK it is 4 p.m. and 4 p.m. means that
Time for tea.
it is time for tea, 4 o'clock, and last week Kay showed everyone how to make the perfect cup of tea. And we're not going to go through all that again. Hope you found that helpful. Morning, Carla. Nice to have you here. And but we are going to enjoy the perfect cup of tea. Hey, Dave Goldfane. And we probably should move that. That's great. And I hope that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, that you can take time for tea or a cup of coffee. It's great to have everyone joining us. Hi, Cody and Carla. And 28 others are online. And if you are joining us, we are live right now, so do say hello. Good morning to you, Nancy. And we are looking out for those names. Great to have this opportunity to be with you. As you can see, a very important piece of equipment have arrived yesterday, namely the clippers. A highly expensive piece of equipment, I think $13, including postage from China. Good morning, Jean, and blessings to you and also Vicky. And this meant that surgery took place yesterday.
It did indeed. I think you were somewhat nervous though.
Yeah, Kay managed to cut my. I mean, how was the experience of cutting my hair? I think the first time in all of the years that we've been married.
Indeed, a new experience for me. So I think for you to sit still was the biggest challenge.
Well, I was quite worried about losing my ears, and there were a couple of moments when
I have
things.
no idea why.
Well, it's a new experience. Good morning, Karen, and Karen's having Victorian and Earl Grey tea.
Very nice.
But it is tea bags, which is not quite.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's all right. And Tracy, Kathy, Jeff, Amy, and Greg, good to have you joining us now. We did have plans for today, didn't we? Which have been messed up a little bit.
Indeed, we were going to go on a walk down a lane, quite a long walk, to show you a very, very old church. But sadly, the recording equipment did not arrive.
Yes, it just arrived about. We got it all here. It just arrived about an hour ago. But this is a 6-mile walk, and don't worry, we wouldn't be taking you on all of that length of time. Good morning, Jackie. But the idea was that there's a old deserted church, and it's not ruins, is it?
It's not ruins, no, it's a perfectly good building.
Yeah, with a lectern and a Bible, and it's 1,000 years old. Good morning, Debs and Jackie. And our plan is to take you with us to investigate that old building. There are some surprises to be found in there. It's really quite an adventure. So what we're planning on doing, the reason we didn't do that today is because we didn't have the gimbal equipment, says he, using a technical word.
That's because Amazon Prime isn't quite Amazon Prime right now, is it, with what's going on?
It's Amazon Primette, really, and they promised us we would have the equipment. Good morning, Cindy. But it didn't arrive, and it has just arrived. We are now setting up. If we didn't do it this way, we would be walking you down the lane.
I think everybody might feel a bit seasick.
All a bit nauseous, really. So we plan on doing that this week. If we can set this equipment up, I think, should we just be honest about it?
Quite a challenge. Quite
a challenge, even though the instruction manual does come complete with pictures, and still quite a challenge.
It is quite a challenge.
Yeah. We probably shouldn't say too much more about that. Here we are. We've been in lockdown for 6 weeks.
Week 7 now.
Week 7. Tomorrow's a big day here.
It is. It's VE Day here. 75 years. And everybody was going to have big celebrations in their communities, but of course, sadly, they're cancelled right now.
VE Day?
So it's the victory.
It's Victory in Europe Day. It wasn't the end of the Second World War because Japan was still in the war, but it was celebrating the fact that there was peace in Europe, and it was an amazing time, and that was 75 years ago. And so the flags are all out, and it would have been an amazing party, not potty, party time. Sadly, that's not going to happen. Jeff's asking, what church is the picture on the wall? And
that is Chichester Cathedral, which is about 12 miles from here.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful. I tell you what we'll do. Let us know if you're interested, because we could take you to Chichester Cathedral on one of our trips. Give us a few hearts and a bit of feedback if you'd be interested in visiting.
We'd have to sneak out though, wouldn't we?
Well, we wouldn't sneak out, darling. We would be obeying the rules, but we do think that's terrible. You're just giving Timberline as an example to break the rules. We're not suggesting that at all, darling, are we?
No, because this next week we're going to walk to the church, which is allowed.
Yeah.
And after, hopefully this weekend, we might have some of our restrictions released.
And so we will completely legally and in compliance with government regulations apart from... we will take you to Chichester Cathedral. Any tips for this season? And we've been in lockdown now for 6 weeks.
We have, and when we're in lockdown, I don't know about you, but I find that each day kind of just rolls into the next. They all seem the same. It sort of feels a bit like Groundhog. Do you remember that movie, Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Day, yeah.
And that every day you get up and you do the same things over and over again. So what I found is I've kind of had to create a sort of new routine or schedule for while being in lockdown, because before we had a routine designed for us. We would go out to work, and if you're a key worker, obviously you're still going to work, so thank you for doing that. But for us that are working from home and in the lockdown situation, you know, we used to be able to go out and for appointments, meet people, go out for coffee, have lunch. All of that obviously is not available to us right now, so just trying to create some sort of routine while we're in lockdown here.
And our structure, I mean, this works for us, it may not work for you, but we get up every morning at 3 a.m. for 4 hours of hymn singing, and then we have 2 hours of Bible reading, then another 2 hours of hymn singing, then 4 hours of prayer, then 5 hours of hymn singing. No, we don't. Larry Baker's watching, and
Larry.
Larry is my hairdresser. Larry, look, my lovely wife. I'm sorry, mate. We just had to do this. It was just inevitable. It was an emergency situation, but I think Kay really did rather well. Now, if you saw the picture, the photograph on the Timberline Facebook page, it is a picture of a rather strange sign. That sign is like 200 yards from where we live here, and it's a very old sign. It's probably 60 or 70 years old, and it declares we live a little way from about a mile. Is it about a mile from a river? Mm-hmm. And the sign announces that the church and river ferry closed. Mm-hmm. Church and river ferry closed. The only thing is this, that's rather misleading, isn't it? First of all, in terms of the ferry.
It is, because there's not been a ferry there for probably 50 years.
So the sign is 50 years out of date. It is irrelevant. And not only that, but you see, I think about these weird things. The sign is not only irrelevant, but it's misleading, because it says church and river ferry closed, which suggests that both the church and the ferry are closed. Now that is wrong. That church has been there for almost 1,000 years. It is actually locked at the moment because of the virus, but the church isn't closed at all. In other words, it is a misleading and irrelevant sign. Mm-hmm. And that leads me to the piece that I wanted to share with you today, which is called Signs. And let me share another quick cup of tea. And Larry is saying, Kay, that you did remarkably well, and sending love and appreciation. And by the way, thank you, Larry. Much love back to you. And by the way, while I'm reading, if you've got any hints, any tips for these strange days that we're living in, then do go ahead and share them, and maybe we can read some of them out and comment on them. Excuse me while I just sip tea. Next week we're going to be back at the same time.
We will. Tea time, 4 p.m. in the UK and 9 a.m. for Mountain Time.
All right, so here's the piece. It's called Signs. Thanks to a recent trip to the movie theatre, actually it was a long time ago, I now know what those green-headed folks who live on other planets do with their spare time. It had never previously occurred to me that extraterrestrials would need hobbies, that there might be stamp collectors and train spotters or the cosmic equivalents thereof out there in space. But Mel Gibson's portrayal of an ex-priest in Signs has changed all that. Apparently E.T. and his pals get their kicks by furtively landing their spacecraft in remote rural locations at night time and then having delirious fun carving elaborate patterns, they're called crop circles, in cornfields. The designs are intricate and look particularly attractive from the air, but the sad truth is folks from other galaxies obviously need to get out more. Their extracurricular activities amount to little more than agricultural vandalism. Weep for our distant friends. They may be able to leap around the universe at warp speed, but obviously they haven't yet got American Idol. If they had, then they'd stop messing about with all those fields and giving the farmers hypertension. But according to the film, there's supposed to be a deeper purpose in all of this graffiti. The thesis of the movie, and of those who believe that crop circles bear the signatures of non-humans, is that these geometrically beautiful patterns are signs that point us to a reality of life that is beyond our own. Our friendly local Martians aren't just scribbling at random, they are producing hints that there is something more beyond us. By the way, bit of poetic license here. Please don't write to me and say, do you believe in UFOs? Because that's really rather irrelevant to the piece. Just a little bit of poetic imagination. We don't have to commit to that and any more than we have to suggest that people should go out and break the rules, darling. Come to think of it, the God of the universe has a similar strategy. Longing to point the way home to a culture of lost souls, he too wants them to be able to read the signs. Sometimes the sign is a miracle, an explosive, brilliantly fluorescent firework like a sudden healing or a corpse raised to life. Most of us would love to see more of those firework displays. But it seems that much of the time God has a more subtle, but perhaps more potentially convincing way of sharing signs. Driving one time, back home in northern Colorado, I saw an ingenious marketing device, the human sign. Wanting to short-circuit red tape and evade high advertising charges, a developer pays people to stand on street corners holding a large arrow that points to the show home or the tax place or wherever that is open. When the showing is over for the home, the human signs pack up and they go home. Very clever. But not very original, because God thought of the idea first. It was always his plan to use human signs, your life and mine, your life and ours, to be distinctive, arresting, illuminating because of the quality, integrity, love and laughter that are supposed to be our hallmarks as followers of the one who calls himself the life. I've occasionally heard Christians tell those who don't believe, don't look at us, look at Jesus. This is ridiculous. How else is someone who is meandering around in the fog of lostness supposed to see the invisible Jesus, except perhaps by bumping into a life that is resolutely under the command of that same King? And then, as human signs, we are permitted to speak, to give a verbal explanation for this new wine life that has been handed to us on grace's platter. So let's join together, Timberline family, in praying that our lives will drop a hint, stir a thought, and maybe be a direct pointer that leads people to focus on Jesus, who is daily scribbling on the canvas of us. We are called to be living signs that make people wonder as they catch a glimpse of the symmetry and the geometry that the loving order of God brings to our lives. That realization itself can bring a sense of destiny to our more tedious Monday mornings. We are called to live lives that can be read, that can be seen, that point to Jesus. And if there are any wandering, crop-circling ETs listening to this, then do yourself and us a big favour, phone home. That was my impersonation of E.T. It was wasn't great really, was it? So, all right, so I think that's almost it for us today. It's been almost 15 minutes.
There's quite a few nice comments about my attempt at cutting your hair.
There are, really.
Yes,
And,
people are very kind.
they are indeed very kind. And I'm trying to read the rest of Larry's comment, but it's not letting me do that.
And Carla wants to know what tea we're drinking. Well, it is an English breakfast blend. Loose tea, of course.
Yeah. Larry's been creatively coming up with various activities and routines that are given purpose and peace. It's back to what you're saying about routines. Nancy's being nice, talking about us bringing some joy. Cindy thought the E.T. impersonation was pretty good, for which I am grateful. Any other? Come on, come back to us. We're live here for the next couple of minutes. Any other suggestions about things that you've done or patterns that you've embraced that have helped you during this lockdown time? Rebecca is saying, is this tea with cream?
No, milk. Has to be milk.
Dave wants to know who's cutting your hair. I mean, maybe that is the answer. I mean, I'm standing ready to be of help. So
I don't think so.
But once again, Cindy's saying that routine helps immensely. And isn't that the truth, that where structure is not created for us by our everyday lives, we actually need to create structures ourselves. And Deb says the only crop circles she's seen were in our country, outside of Avebury, wherever that is. Kenda's having Scottish afternoon tea.
Very nice.
And Deb's having lots of time with Jesus in capital letters. I don't think that means that she's shouting. I hope not. Rachel says she's enjoying these. Are we allowed to go for walks? We certainly are. But
daily, yes.
Daily, but we can't just stroll around. It has to be for exercise, although again, we think that that's changing very soon. Well, we promised that these would only be about 15 minutes. Liz very kindly says that she's missing us. That's very kind. We miss seeing you, Liz, and everybody too. And Margaret's saying that bird watching.
But you know, we saw something interesting.
Did we tell them about that last week?
The bird, we did. Today, we went to pick up some essential supplies. And on our way home, we saw this couple. And the lady was walking a dog on a leash. And the young man had this humongous snake wrapped around his neck.
He was taking the snake for a walk.
This was down a little high street.
He was taking the snake for a slither.
It was rather strange.
I mean, it was odd, really. But it wasn't. He didn't have the snake on a leash. He had it wrapped around his neck, like you say, didn't he? So there you go. Yes. Well, it's time for us to hang up. Not least because we've taken our time, and also because it's time for Kay's haircut. God bless you. Loads of love to you all.
Goodbye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.